What's up, everyone? This is Christian Duque, and you're watching ThisWeekInBodybuilding.com. That's right, my friends. All you got to do is put ThisWeekInBodybuilding.com on your address bar, and bam, you're going to go to the YouTube playlist, or you can go to Strength Addicts on Instagram and click on the TWIB section, and you're going to see all the shows there as well. And they're all brought to you courtesy of TitanMedicalCenter.com, your go-to source for all your TRT, medical weight loss, glutathione, the new ECA Plus stack, injectable vitamins, libido, Titan Complete, Nectar of the Gods. It's all at TitanMedicalCenter.com. So the nature of this show is to talk about everything, or at least the really key highlights of the week in bodybuilding in one episode with yours truly, Christian Duque. So the first thing I got to talk about, the Arnold Classic, okay? The Arnold Classic is going to be back in Columbus, Ohio, September 25th. It's going to be an amazing competition. Sadly, no expo, but that's outside of their hands. And it's going to be, I think, very, very fitting because while the Olympia is in Orlando this year, was there last year, could be there next year, the Olympia used to have a history of kind of moving around the world, like Helsinki, Finland, Orlando, Florida, which that's where Lee Haney won it, right? But the Arnold Classic belongs in Columbus. You know, the city depends on it. There's so much history there. And you got Mike Davies in Columbus. You know, you got all the gyms in Columbus. It's just, that's where it belongs, guys. And, you know, that's where Arnold and Jim Lorimer, now Bob Lorimer is really big into that. Matt Lors, the Lors are huge into that. And it just wouldn't feel right anywhere else. You know what I mean? So it's great to see it there. The only thing, though, is that it's 2 weeks before the Mr. Olympia. And so it's not going to qualify you for the 2021 Olympia. It's going to qualify you for the 2022 Olympia. And it is said that the 2022 Arnold will happen when it's normally supposed to happen, the first week of March. And I'm assuming that it's also going to qualify you for the 2022, or it's going to qualify you for 2023. I don't think so. I think it's going to qualify you for 2022 because that's normally how it's done. So it's interesting because you're going to have two Arnold Classics essentially qualifying you for the same Olympia. But it doesn't really matter because it's the second biggest bodybuilding show, and you know it's going to draw out a who's who of bodybuilders. Now, one big name that a lot of people are looking at is Phil Heath, who has never won an Arnold Classic, who is posting content with 22-inch arms, minimal body fat, looks fantastic. His whole mental outlook is so much better because he doesn't have that weight on him of having to do a comeback, beating Brandon Curry, beating Hadi Choopan, beating everybody. Now it's just like, I feel like he's probably just a lot more relaxed. And if he does the Arnold, it's going to be because he wants to do it and because he wants to have fun. And I think, you know, Phil Heath having fun with a great outlook and training because he wants to train is extremely dangerous. So I think that it would be very, very interesting to see Phil Heath come back. It should be very interesting to see Kai Green come back too. I mean, if we're talking bodybuilding for fun's sake, it could be an epic showdown between the Predator and the Gift in Columbus, Ohio. It'd be amazing. It'd be like, I don't know what it would be like, but it would be amazing. You know what I mean? But I don't think we're going to see, of course, disagree with the great Nick Strength and Power. I don't think we're going to see a who's who of top Olympians at the Arnold, even though it is just 2 weeks before the show. Because, look, guys, Big Rami's not going to do the Arnold. I would be shocked if Big Ramy did the Arnold. It would be like he learned nothing from Ronnie Coleman in 2001. Because a reigning Mr. Olympia should not peak twice. I don't care if it's 6 months apart. I don't care if it's 2 weeks apart. It's just too much of a gamble. If you're Mr. Olympia, you're the best in the world. And so you want to be the best of the world again. I don't see Brandon Curry doing it because I think Brandon Curry can legitimately win the Olympia again. And so he's not going to want to peak twice. Maybe William Bonek, you know, he's an Arnold Classic champion, maybe, but he's also a top Olympian. Is he going to want to peak twice? Hadi Choopan, you know, I don't think so. Akeem Williams, possibly. But I think Akeem Williams is going to win in Chicago. You know, top 6 at last year's Olympia. He may also have too much to lose, guys, because it's not so much, everybody's talking about, like, you know, if you're already peaked and you're already in shape and it's just 2 weeks before, you might as well just do it. But we all know that diuretics are a thing, you know. Oh, okay, so maybe a lot of people eat cranberries possibly and asparagus, but other people don't. And we know how taxing diuretics can be on the body. And to do that, first of all, the Arnold Classic is not just some show, okay? The pecking order is Olympia, Arnold Classic, New York Pro. That's how it's always been. And then below that, you have another series of elite shows like Pittsburgh, like Tampa, like Chicago. And then below that, you have a lot of pro shows. And then below that, there's more tiers. And none of this is official. It's just my opinion. But it is what it is. And so you're not going to tell me that you're just going to like peak for the second biggest bodybuilding show and the first biggest bodybuilding show, and it's not going to like be taxing on your body, because that's nonsense. It may be the case for like one or two genetic freaks, but it's certainly not going to be the case across the boards. And so one thing I do have to say that is making, you know, the whole Arnold thing a lot more lucrative or a lot more tempting is how lucrative it is because, you know, they're still going to be giving $400,000 in prize money, even though they're not going to have an expo. And so I think, you know, a lot of bodybuilders are going to look at that and be like, wow, you know, I can make a lot of money. But here's the deal. Let's say you go into the Arnold and you win it, and you win the top prize, and you're Big Ramy, but then you lose the Olympia. Was the prize money at the Arnold and the title of the Arnold worth, you know, failing to successfully defend your first Olympia title, your second Olympia title? I mean, it's just, I don't know. So I definitely think we're going to see some great talent. I think we might see Phil Heath. We might see Kai Green. We always say we might see Kai Green, but he's a factor, guys. The guy is shredded, you know, big as a house, poses every freaking day. He's always going to be a factor. So it's going to be very interesting, to say the least. Extremely interesting. Okay, guys, let's move on to the next piece of news, of course, brought to you courtesy of TitanMedicalCenter.com. Check out Nectar of the Gods. If you don't know what that is, head on over to TitanMedicalCenter.com. You have no excuse. Okay, guys, so let's talk about Lee Priest and Sugar Shawn Ray. And, you know, Shawn has no idea where this came from, because I talk to Shawn rather often. Got to name drop him. You know, he's a freaking Hall of Famer, you know what I mean? But he has no knowledge about this. And, you know, it's just ironic because, you know, look, Shawn runs Digital Muscle. This was the brainchild of Dan Solomon, sold to Jake Wood. Jake Wood has entrusted Digital Muscle to Shawn Ray. He's a co-host of Monday Night Muscle with Bob Ciccarello. That's a Jake Wood production. He's at Mr. Olympia, you know, the show that Jake Wood owns, the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. He's a co-MC and he's part of the planning phases, and he's sort of like a right-hand man to Dan Solomon. He is a successful contest promoter. He has sponsors, guys. Don't forget, he still has a lot of sponsors, and he has obligations to those sponsors. This is a guy that does not have that kind of time to be throwing his hat into the ring with Lee Priest, a guy who hasn't competed in 15 years on a real stage, who, you know, does shows with RX Muscle on a webcam, and I love RX Muscle. Don't think I don't. Dave Palumbo gave me my break. I was writing articles for RX Muscle back in 2013 when nobody cared about Christian Duque. I wrote 80 episodes of Muscle in the Morning in the summer of 2014, 80 of them, working on a daily basis with Dave Palumbo and Johnny Styles. That experience is invaluable. I owe Dave a lot, so I love RX Muscle. But that does not change the fact that Lee Priest is beaming in from Australia on a webcam. Nothing against webcams. I'm shooting this with a 4K Sony camcorder, but it doesn't matter. Camcorder, webcam, or whatever, phone, whatever, it doesn't matter. But the point is, you cannot compare what Lee Priest has done with his professional status and his name, and what Sugar Shawn Ray has done with his professional status and his name. It's just apples and oranges, to quote the great Bob Ciccarello. And the thing is, what does Shawn have to gain from a fight with Lee Priest? Nothing. What does Lee Priest have to gain from a fight with Shawn Ray? Everything. So there you have it. Okay, let's talk about Nick Walker. Victories on and off the stage. This segment brought to you courtesy of TitanMedicalCenter.com. Follow them at Titan Medical and watch all the great shows on Instagram and Facebook Live each and every week. Okay, guys, Nick Walker, the guy needs no introduction. This guy's going to be a future Olympian. Shit, he's going to be a future Mr. Olympia. A future Olympian just means that you qualify and you do the Olympia. That's all that means. It's a big thing, but he's going to be, in my opinion, he could very well be a Mr. Olympia. I see how I kind of guard myself. I kind of hold myself back a little bit, but I do believe that he could most definitely be a top 3 he could be a Mr. Olympia, okay? And so we all know that he had this feud with Blessing Awodibu, and we all know that it got heated. We all know the companies got involved, and we all know when, you know, the smoke cleared, we all know what the placing said. Now, for, you know, experienced journalists, and I include myself in that, for seasoned fans with that eye, and I include Dan Dillon, the mayor of bodybuilding, in that, most definitely, this guy knows bodybuilding better than anybody, okay? Blessing was not going to beat Nick. You know, we all knew that, but there's like a machine in the industry, like a media machine that thrives on pettiness, on negativity, and quite frankly, on blowing people up. Oh, this guy's going to beat this guy. This guy's going to be unstoppable. This guy's going to, and it's just not true. It's clickbait. It's you know, misleading posts, whatever you want to call it. It's just aimed at generating hits, at fomenting conversation, at stirring the pot. That's what that is. But what I really liked is, for as toxic as it got, you know, when Nick won, he could have rubbed Blessing's face in it. He could have humiliated the guy. He could have said, like, here, look, I beat you. You weren't second, you were third. He didn't do that. Not that third's bad. Listen, guys, third at the New York Pro. Let's go back. Rewind to when we were talking about the Arnold Classic being the second biggest bodybuilding show. Well, the Arnold is the second. The New York Pro is the third biggest bodybuilding show. And it's the third, and there's probably like 30 or 40 shows below it. So when I say it's the third, it is the third. It's the former Night of Champions. To get third place at the New York Pro is massive. But it's not second, and it's not first. Nick got first. But he didn't make fun of Blessing. He didn't make fun of Blessing's company. He didn't make fun of Blessing's supporters, most notably Kai Green. If Nick would have gotten into it with Kai Green, if he'd have been the kind of bodybuilder that we know of, because there are bodybuilders that we know of that would have done that. They'd have said, well, you know, this thing with Blessing is old. You know, it's in the past. But now, see, if I go against Kai, the most popular bodybuilder in the world, it's probably in the world on social media, then I could capitalize on that. Because nobody has more followers than Kai. He's got like 4 million, I think, on Facebook, and like 5 million on Twitter. And you know, so he's, you know, but did he do that? No. Okay. Did he make fun of Blessing's fans? Like a certain Louis Marco did some years ago with Phil Heath's fans? No. So the thing is, what did he do? He said that Blessing one day would be a great bodybuilder. Not a good bodybuilder, a great bodybuilder. He said that Blessing looked really good. He said that they live close together and they should do a video. They should do a workout. They should put out positive content. This is a consummate professional. So again, we oftentimes talk about good sportsmanship in the context of someone that does not do well, in the context of someone that tastes defeat. We seldom, if ever, talk about good sportsmanship when we're talking about someone that won. And I got to tell you something, you know, this guy's fantastic. You know, Nick Walker is fantastic on and off the stage. He brings the physique, he poses hard, he gets the accolades, but he's also just a freaking amazing ambassador for his sport, and that includes generating and putting out this positivity amongst his competitors, the fellow competitors. I was very, very impressed. And that'll do it for this week's edition of This Week in Bodybuilding.com, brought to you courtesy of TitanMedicalCenter.com. Be sure to follow Strength Addicts, follow Titan Medical, and I'll see you next week.